Hey everybody. Once again, I hate doing this, and I hate repeating myself. We've got more disinformation about Jade Helm. Supposedly somebody that's either going by the name of White Rabbit or going off the notoriety of a character from the Jesse Ventura show known as White Rabbit, something of that sort. Anyway, apparently this person has been credited with information about Jade Helm. And this information states that they think that there's a strong possibility of an EMP going off in Texas. How it's going to just solely affect Texas, I don't know, because that's not typically what EMPs do. But anyway, the story is that there's an EMP going to go off in Texas today. So anyway, I don't put a lot of credibility into it. I'm going to call bullshit on it because of many, many, many factors. And I want to get into some points besides that. But if you look at the corporate report, he gives a case of how you can basically point out disinformation, where there was a shoddily made video, a really poorly made video of supposedly the smoking gun evidence of a missile hitting the Pentagon during 9/11. And nobody could give a source for it. It just appeared and then disappeared on the net. And it keeps reappearing several times. Supposedly 3 times. Each time it gets better and better. Somebody improves on it. But nobody can source it. And it's been flipped. It's been digitized. It's been all kinds of different stuff. Trying to pass it off as different videos. It's the same video. Well, that's in one case that you can point to and say, yeah, well, that was very clear-cut disinformation thrown out there to discredit, I believe, anybody that was saying that, well, it could have been this or that, we don't know, but we're looking for answers, we want answers. Because they really do want to discredit anybody who's not buying the official story. Now, that's an instance of some disinformation. How you can find out what it is. But one of the key things is that you can't source it. You can't point to. There's no way to source it. There's nobody saying, hey, here, I'm the verifiable source of this information, and you can trust me because of blank. It's just put out there for anybody to speculate on. And so when you have stuff like that where you can't verify the source, where it's he said, she said, or a friend of a friend told me this or something like that, I tend to write it off because it's a shadow source or a straw man, and it doesn't exist, and there's no way to go to that person and say, hey, is this real information or not? It's just out there somewhere, So that whole friend of a friend type thing, it just doesn't sit well with me. Also, it kind of reminds me of, the little kid that has an imaginary friend and their mom asks them, well, who ate the cookies? And even though they have crumbs all over their mouth, they're like, no, Bob did it. Well, who's Bob? Bob's right here. You can't see him. Their imaginary friend. So, to me, it's kind of childish to even pull that stunt, because if you're going to say, I've got documents and I'm afraid that this is going to happen, man, screw the repercussions. If you really think that you're going to be able to stop something or warn the American public, there's ways to go out and disseminate the information. Not hang on to it. Everybody that you've ever seen that's been killed for secreting away information or holding a file box full of evidence or whatever, their biggest mistake was they did not distribute that information. They didn't give it to different people. They didn't spread it around and say, okay, in the case of my demise or whatever, spread this around. You know? Because the more people that have it, the safer that makes you, number one. Number two, once it's out there, it can't be stopped. You know? And if you're afraid they're going to get you one way or another, what's the point of playing these stupid secret games? And not only that, but I think in this day and age, people are very willing to listen to whistleblowers come forward. And for someone to even just copy some orders that say, you know, there's going to be an EMP attack, and then post them and give copies to everybody they know, you know, friends, relatives, whatever. That's some serious stuff, because if it's definitely a government agency planning to attack the American people, attack its own citizens, then that needs to be stopped. You know, that's treasonous. So there's nothing illegal about stopping treason. So for someone to say, well, I know a friend of a friend and they saw this document but they can't give me a copy and they're afraid and they're going to go AWOL, that's a load of crap. Because, and I'm going to tell you what I think it is. I think it's them making up a fictitious character and giving it a title that everybody will be attracted to or gravitate to, simply because in their mind they associate it with conspiracies and other things, and they think it could be a credible source because it may be celebrity or something like that. But there's no way to verify it. I think that's that person's ego taking over, because they're dead set on, when shit hits the fan, it's supposed to happen this way, and it can't happen any other way. And in order for me to get my point across, for people to believe me that this is what I think is going to be, they have to concoct these stories. And it does us no justice at all. It doesn't do anybody any justice who's trying to find out what the truth is, who's trying to prepare for any kind of SHTF scenario. It just doesn't help anybody. All it does is it's more fear porn. And so anyway, that's one of the things I want to talk about. Another thing I wanted to talk about was, I don't understand why everybody is calling all these operations Jade Helm. Whatever happens this summer, that little tiny exercise did not just take over all of the exercises in the United States. If there's a false flag, they're not going to call it Jade Helm. And it really bothers me when people assign the name of an exercise and then try and flip it around and call it something else. Like I said, they're calling everything that's happening this summer Jade Helm, even though it has nothing to do with that exercise. Each unit has its own exercise named something else, but everybody swears up and down that it's Jade Helm too. And that's just not true. That's just not how they go. In the military, you have different naming conventions. You have different nomenclatures and everything. And if you don't know what you're talking about, it's very obvious when you just start throwing these terminology around that doesn't make any sense. Like, this guy is calling Jade Helm an operation. Well, the difference between an exercise and an operation is this. An exercise is training. It's getting you prepared for an event. Okay? That's all. It's getting prepared for an event, or maybe not even a specific event, but several events down the road, whatever those may be. An operation is a real, live combat action. That's what an operation is. So to confuse the two terminologies to me is kind of disingenuous. And it really bothers me when people throw these terms around and they don't know what they mean. So calling Jade Helm an operation instead of an exercise is egregious. I mean, that's damn near a lie, because you can't confuse the two. Like Operation Desert Storm, that was a real combat action. They didn't have a exercise during the summer months in southwest United States before they went to Desert Storm called Operation Desert Storm. It was called something else. It was an exercise. Didn't even have exercise on there. It just says this is a training exercise, and they probably called it something else like Desert Sands 92 or some crap, But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But get your terminology right, because if you don't know what you're talking about, it's going to be very obvious. Why do I know better than a lot of these nutcases out here spreading disinformation what the terminologies are? Because I was in the military. I practically lived, breathed, sleeped it before I was in the military. I was raised around a bunch of special ops guys and Vietnam vets. So I know what they do for a living. Their job, since their inception, has always been and always will be to train local militias, insurgents, resistance groups, and the like. They go in, they live with the people, they train them how to be an effective fighting force, and basically they're in charge of them. But that means that they're out in the middle of nowhere. They don't live in the cities. They don't have apartments where they live a posh lifestyle and have girlfriends and go to titty bars and everything. And yeah, they do that stuff too when they're on leave. But when they're in an actual operation, when they're out there operating, they're out in the middle of nowhere. They don't have all the creature comforts. The difference is in Iraq and Afghanistan, they had the creature comforts because they were in a forward operating base or a camp that was fully fortified, and yeah, they lived with the local militias or fighters and trained them, but they didn't live with the people. They got away from their original role. So a lot of people don't understand that Jade Helm has nothing to do with urban warfare. They're trying to get away from that urban warfare mindset because they've been steeped in that the last two wars. So they feel that they've lost that edge that they would have if they would go back to training the way that they were originally intended, which is to live among the indigenous people out in the middle of nowhere in the little villages and hamlets or whatever, and eat their food and not have the luxury of having a helicopter drop supplies every week or every couple of days, not have the luxury of having a pallet of stuff parachuted into them so that they can get resupplied and rearmed and everything, but to live like on very, very meager terms, to where they're going to have to use the ground shopping mall. They're going to have to scavenge weapons and ammo off the dead. They're going to have to figure out, beg, borrow, steal just to eat, or work out some kind of deal with the local population or something. They're going to have to figure out how to interact with police, because in other countries there are police. So, and those guys don't stop their job just because there's a war. You got to be out of your mind to even think that. And I can't think of any conflict, even in Iraq and Afghanistan, where there wasn't some police officers too. So they have to know how to interact with those people too. They have to know how to set up meetings in townships and stuff. So everybody saying that they're going to be in the city doing urban warfare training is completely off the mark. They're not even going to touch that stuff. They want to get away from that. That's why this Jade Helm exercise is going on in the first place. Now, a lot of people don't know that there's a specific budget for arming and supplying populations for the Special Forces. And it's called the Section 1208 program. A lot of people don't know that. And it's been called other things through the years, and even back during Ronald Reagan and some other stuff, it's been going on. But basically what it is it's a budget, and it's voted on in Congress and everything to account for monies that they need to appropriate so that they can buy clothing, gear, weapons, whatever, to basically arm people so they can train them. And there are specific companies that cater to this need and actually put together a webgear package for like $145 a pop, but they buy them in mass, in bulk, and so they get this great deal. Well, you can guarantee right now, here in America even, that those SF guys have connexes of that shit hiding all over the place that they bought with the American money that was allocated for Special Forces to do that. And they use that shit in other parts of the world too. You know, when they get ready to go drop in somewhere, or they get ready to train or whatever, they need those 1208 packages so that they can equip the troops that they're going to train. And we're not talking about real troops. We're talking about like guerrillas, like, you know, a bunch of guys living in a village that want to defend their homes and stuff, you know, like your average American who's supposed to be in the militia, and they would do the same thing for us if we needed. So a lot of people don't understand they have that in the budget. And this year, I'm not sure what they voted on to increase it, but just this year was $750 million for that kind of equipment. And we're not talking about, you know, missile launchers or anything like that. We're talking about just gear, a canteen, a friggin' rucksack, LBE or chest rig of some kind. And they had $750 million in the budget just for that this year. So what that tells you is that these guys are really not going to do what everybody thinks they're going to do. They've already planned this well in advance. They've got the funding for it. You know, the couple of wars, you know, Uncle Sam loved them. So gave them all this kind of money. What have they been doing with that money? They spend it. Why do they spend it? Because even if they don't use it, even if they don't use that gear, they can stockpile it for later. And I can guarantee you they got that shit here somewhere, and they'd be more than willing to pass it out to Americans if that was needed. So you got to know what you're talking about before you go off half-cocked and start repeating all this crap, because that's exactly what it is. It's just a psyop. No matter who started it, it's a psyop. Because what it's attempting to do and is successfully doing is driving a wedge between the very people who would be willing to train you, who have the expertise and the know-how in order to do that, to help you survive. It's driving a wedge between them and the people that are scared that they're going to do something to them. And everybody has a right to distrust the government because they've been doing some really crappy stuff lately. But you can't distrust everybody. And if you don't know who you're dealing with first, then you can't point fingers. So I'd say take caution, you know, but understand that most of your recon guys and infantry and your basically your combat arms guys, you know, the ground pounders, special ops, all them guys, they love Americans. They especially love Americans that love guns. And they would probably not come and take your guns. They would probably pass them out to you. Better ones than the ones you have. So, I just don't understand what all the apprehension is about. It's a bunch of confusion and disinformation that people are buying into, and they need to stop it. And I'll tell you why you need to stop it. Is because while you are focused on and dwelling on all this negative stuff and fear and everything like that, what you're actually doing is you're doing the opposite of prayer. People believe in a power of prayer, or some people call it the power of agreement, where as people gather with one mind and believe in one thing, it happens. Well, what you're doing, if you believe that they're going to come get you and take your guns, and eventually what that's going to do is that's actually going to make it happen. And you may not believe that. If you don't believe that, then you don't believe in prayer, because that's exactly what it is. So, anyway, the remedy to that is the opposite. What you need to do is you need to take that information and you need to look at it objectively. You need to find out all the information that you can find from credible sources, from people that are actually in the special operations detachments, the units or whatever, or were at one time, and they know the mindset and they know the training and they know how these guys think and move and what their mission is. And you need to really brush up on terminology, because if you don't brush up on terminology and understanding what you're looking at and what you're reading and what you're hearing, then you're going to get fooled by anything. Anybody could come up to you and have something written down that looks like a piece of Nigerian spam, and you would say, oh my God, these are orders for such and such, and they're going to do this and that and everything else. Right now, since I know how to do it, I could literally forge a military memorandum and make it look like an official document. I'm not going to do that, but I know how to do it. So there's a specific number of things that you have to have in it, and then you know that it's official, that it's sanctioned, and all this other type of stuff. But most people don't know that, so they might claim this is a document or something like that, but you're not going to know what you're looking at unless you've actually looked at that kind of stuff before. So even if there was a document you could source, most people would either not understand what they're looking at, or they would believe a fake is true, or they would misinterpret everything entirely, or say that they were going to do exactly what they said they weren't going to do inside the memorandum or presentation or whatever, which they've done with Jade Helm. Everything they said that they weren't going to do, everybody's like, but they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And you go back to the source and you find out that's bull. They didn't say anything of the sort. So, and what you're seeing going on isn't Jade Helm. Let me tell you, there's so many exercises going on every summer. You got Fort Irwin, you got Fort Polk, you got all of these little camps and state parks and everything, and military trains all over. They don't have to stay on a military base. It's not in the Constitution. I don't know where everybody got this idea that it's in the Constitution they have to stay on a military base. No, it's not. It's in the Constitution that they only own those military posts, the camps, the forts, the whatever is designated federal property is the only thing that they can own. Okay? And they can only own it for the purpose of this or that or a garrison or whatnot. And people are getting it confused. That doesn't mean they can't train somewhere else. As long as they get permission, as long as they tell the people in the town we're going to do it, even if they don't, if they get permission from the local authorities, if they need to keep it under wraps because of operational security, that's fine. As long as they're not coming to your door, knocking on your door and demanding that you move out and evacuate and go to a FEMA camp and they take your gun, you're fine. They're not going to do that. They are just not going to do that anyway. There's not enough military personnel in the United States to do that. Over half of them are reserves and National Guard. Do you think they're really going to turn on their own townspeople? Probably not. They'd probably get shot. So, and they know that. So what they got to do is they have to spread this disinformation and a psyop to defeat a resistance before it even begins. That's the purpose of a psyop. When they know they don't have the resources available, they fool you into thinking that they are so big and bad and powerful that there's nothing you can do. And so you just give up before anything even happens. And Sun Tzu's Art of War, a prime example of that is to win a battle without even fighting. That's one of the principles in there. So that goes right along with it. If you don't think that's what they're doing, then you're a fool. If you're willing to give up before you even confront a situation, you've already lost and you deserve to lose. And you deserve to go to that FEMA camp that you're dreaming about. And I don't understand why everybody is such a sadomasochist when it comes to this crap, that they're willing to bend over, oh, do it to me again. It has to be. My whole life depends on, an EMP happening in martial law and all that. What is wrong with you people? Do you really want that to happen? Because if you do, it's going to happen the way you're thinking. You're already defeating yourself mentally. And you need to stop. So, anyway, I'm just really tired of the disinformation. Because I get bombarded with it every day. I get people come up to me and ask me, what do you think of this Jade Helm? And I said, I'm not even worried about it. It's an exercise. Big deal. It's not going to affect me. Is there a possibility of a false flag happening this summer? Yes, but they're not going to call it Jade Helm. It's going to be something entirely different. They're going to slipstream it in with all these other exercises because they're going to be training. And I've already told you, the feds, FEMA, DHS, and a whole bunch of other alphabet soup agencies are all training and gearing up for a nuclear disaster of some kind. Okay, whether it's a dirty bomb or an actual real nuke. Contaminated victims. And the response needed for that. And we're not talking about military response per se. They would have to cordon off a contaminated area. They would have to keep people from going out, going in. They have to quarantine people coming out and things like this. Is what they're training for. And I don't understand why everybody is so dead set on thinking that it's going to be just martial law for no reason. But this is the pretext. And you have to understand that this would be a very viable pretext. So everything is pointing towards some kind of false flag occurring this summer in conjunction with a bunch of other crap that's going on. And the military units that are training are going to be training along the same lines, but they're all thinking that it's just an exercise, just like 9/11. Now, in 9/11, did they call the exercise, did they call 9/11 Operation Northwoods? Is that what we know it as today? No, we don't. Whatever operation that was going on is secret because it will never see the light of day. They did, however, have training exercise going on, and yet we still don't know the disaster that happened on 9/11 as the training exercise that was occurring at the same time. We know it is 9/11. So, I don't know what it is that people fantasize and they blow things out of proportion and misidentify things and assign names to things that don't belong to them. But get your facts straight, please. It's not always doom and gloom. It's not always they're coming to get me. Most of us probably won't even really be affected directly by whatever's going to happen this summer, but it will set the stage for stuff down the road. And people are already ticked off. And I guarantee whatever happens at that moment, America will never be the same again. So I would suggest that you prepare for that. If you find out information that can help prevent it, spread it around. We would much rather this didn't happen than it did. You know, I'll be the last one to want this to happen. You know, I'm ready for it, but I don't want to do it. And I think a lot of people misunderstand guys like me because they think that, you know, we're high speed, we're, you know, kick ass, we're just gonna be like Rambo out there taking names, whatever. No, that's the last thing I want to do. I mean, do I enjoy that type of stuff? Do I enjoy shooting? Do I enjoy, you know, doing patrols and recon and all that kind of, yeah, I enjoy it. You know, I've lived and breathed it for many years, but that doesn't mean I want to do that now in this country. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it here. It's happened in other places. It's horrible, and I don't want to see it here. And if there's anything that I could do to stop it, I would. But I think that's going to take all of us. So give up your fantasies about this and that. Keep a cool head. Be aware of what's going on around you. Pay attention. Be objective. Get all your facts straight. Because all of these things are important. You know, if what's going to happen is going to happen, then you cannot rely on false information. You cannot be fooled by anything that comes your way, any information that comes your way. Because what that's going to amount to is that you will be another name on the list of, let's just call them Darwin's favorites. Okay? And you ain't gonna make it. It's plain and simple. You gotta be smarter. You gotta be smarter. So I know it's kind of a long video, but I had to get it off my chest because I'm kind of sick and tired of just hearing the same old garbage over and over again. And nobody really listens, you know? So, anyway, I'm going to get off of here. I'm tired. I got to take some kind of nap or something. So, talk to you later. Bye.